guys, Chauncey Phillips here, welcome to January 21st DVD update, where I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, guys, enjoy these update videos. Definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below what you guys thought of the titles I checked out this update, any titles coming up which you guys like me to review for future updates, and some of the things you guys have picked up recently. Now, the first ones I got from Shout Factory Scream Factory line are the brand new collector's editions of Poltergeist 2 and Poltergeist 3. Really, really great new arc on both of these ones. I have not watched these movies in a very long time. The second movie, though, is one of those movies that ever since I was a kid always really creeped me out, mainly the Reverend character. He's such a creepy character. I know the actor, too, passed away while they were making this movie because he was really, really sick when they were doing this, but he was so good in this movie. You know, his character was brought back, played by a different actor in the third movie, but he was just so good and so creepy the way he played this role as this, like, evil, menacing Reverend, and it was all up to no good. The movie's basically, though, about the family from the first movie. At the end of the first movie, what happens to the house, it gets kind of sucked into a black hole, and the family now is kind of like trying to recover from what had happened to them because they lost their house. They're having problems trying to get any money for their house because, like, the insurance are like, well, the house has vanished, it's missing, so it's not like it was destroyed. Basically, there's no trace of the house, so they're having all these problems, and they end up moving to a new place, but of course, they moved to a new place with the one's mother, but then the mother gets sick, and then terrible things start to happen because then this Reverend character starts coming around, and then it's the original, woman from the first movie, and a Native American that kind of works with her. The woman who's like Cara Ann, who kind of was the one who cleansed the house. Well, they're kind of working on their own thing, and the Native American character comes around to try and help the family because they are sensing that something bad is going to happen. Of course, it's this Reverend character who's come around, and the family is now at the mother's house, and weird things start to happen again, and it's all coming back again, even worse than the first movie, and it's kind of them trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do. Just an extremely creepy movie, and some really, really cool practical effects. Same with the third movie, had really cool practical effects as well. This has on here, though, a new commentary track with writer-producer on here. Talking to the one actor who played the younger brother in this movie, him talking about his experience on making the movie and coming back. And it was an interesting documentary, too, interesting interview, because he was kind of talking about how he was kind of getting bullied in school, and this was kind of like him getting away and, going back to doing another film and kind of getting away from all the problems that he was having at school and stuff. And it has on here, though, too, an interview with the special effects artist on here, and then a look at the contributions from H.R. Geiger, and some photos and stuff like that. He contributed the look of some of the characters in this movie, but an extremely creepy movie. Great. It's a new 2K transfer scan of this, so it looks really good. The second movie wasn't my favorite of all the movies, but I do like movies that are like in settings that are all like in one kind of place, and especially in like apartment complexes. And when I think of this movie, for some reason, I kind of think of Demons 2, because Demons 2 was all set in like a high-rise apartment building, and it kind of, the first Demons was on the movie theaters, and the second Demons was in the high-rise, and this kind of has that sort of feel a little bit. Like I said, this is Poltergeist 3, and this is now Carol Ann living with her aunt, and then of course, though, they're in this apartment building, and then weird things start to happen around the apartment complex, and the Reverend character has come back, and like things in the building are kind of getting possessed, and weird things start to happen to all the people. It's a very, very creepy. Another one, like I said, too, has even more practical effects, like crazy, like stuff that was all done in camera and stuff, which is pretty cool. Like, these movies too were all really about, like, going for the effects and things like that. It has on here, though, a commentary track with the director of this one, and then both of them have commentary tracks as well with the webmaster of the Poltergeist website. And on here, High Spirits, an interview with the screenwriter, an interview with Nancy Allen, which is pretty cool because Nancy Allen has, I think she retired from acting a number of years back, so it's really cool they've got her to do interviews for their races. I'm thinking she's probably going to do releases too for the RoboCop ones coming up as well. But, like I said, it's not as cool as the other ones, but it also has on here, though, the alternate ending on here. It's actually in HD. They don't have the dialogue, the audio, but the video is all in HD, so that's kind of cool that they track that down, because I don't think that had ever been seen before, as far as I know, unless I might be totally wrong, but I don't think it has that original ending to the movie. But like I said, both of these ones, and this one has a new 2K transfer as well, but really, really cool movies, and like I said, really cool that they have these brand new editions of them. Then the next one's here from Lionsgate, and this is one that I heard a lot about Really wanted to see this one. I heard a lot of people talking about this one. It's from the director of The Strangers, and it's a movie called The Monster. It's a very cool movie. It's kind of got sort of the idea about a lot of it set in the car. Kind of has a Cujo kind of feel to it a little bit. It's basically, though, about this mother and her daughter, and the mom, she's kind of like a younger mother and her daughter, and they're always both having, like, arguments with each other because the mother has really bad problems with drinking. She's always kind of drunk and really kind of forgetting things and not really being very much the adult. It's like the daughter is like, the younger daughter is kind of the one kind of taking care of things, as the mother just does not have it together. And they don't get along, they're fighting with each other, and, the daughter is going to see her father, and the mom has to drive her, you know, to get there. And they go there in this kind of old kind of road in the middle of nowhere, and they end up hitting something with the car, and the car ends up breaking down. And they end up trapped out there, and it's basically like there is some kind of a creature out in, you know, out in the woods, and it's really set mainly with them, both of them, and then this tow truck driver, and that's really all the characters that are out there. And it's also, the movie definitely has some metaphors for a lot of things as well, because it kind of cuts back and forth too throughout the movie to kind of situations that had happened with the mother, where things, she was messed up, or she ended up getting drunk and didn't go to the one daughter's play, and like all these kind of things that she was missing and stuff. Just a very, very well done, well acted, and very sad in a lot of ways movie too. And the creature in this too, really cool practical creature. They have a behind the scenes thing on here as well, and the creature was all done practically, and like, because this is one of those kind of movies where, you know, I've seen movies in the past when they've done things like this, and this creature would be like fully CGI, and they would kind of take you out of the movie. The fact that they really went for a real, you know, actual practical effect really added to this and made it very creepy. And like I said, it has on here a featurette on this movie. The next one here is a movie starring Nicolas Cage, Tom Sizemore, and Thomas Jane. It's called USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage, and it's basically it's a true story, and it's about it's set during World War II. It's about them like, it was a secret mission that they were, you know, that Nicolas Cage was captaining, and it didn't, like, they usually would have a submarine, like, along with them to kind of protect them, because this was set during the war in case there was any, like, people that were going to come after them and things like that. But because this was a secret mission, they didn't have this, and they were basically traveling with the atomic bomb to kind of, this bomb to kind of stop the war, and kind of like to show that they had this, you know, America had this to fight against what's going on. So they get out there to deliver the weapon, and then they end up getting hit with a torpedo, and end up getting, because they didn't, and no one knew where they were or anything, they end up getting trapped out there in the middle of the ocean while the ship is sinking, and they're in this ocean. Out there are sharks everywhere, and it's all of them out there trying to survive. And it's kind of has like very much like a Titanic situation that happened here, because these people were trapped out there. They didn't really have lifeboats. It was like set during that same kind of time when they didn't have like enough things like that to like lifeboats or any of that kind of stuff, or have the stuff they have now to kind of protect these people when something like this would happen. So they even have like the rafts that they had were like really early type of rafts I had never seen before, because they, like, the water was all inside of them, and they were kind of down into the water. It was a very interesting type thing. Very, very well acted, just like a character piece about what had happened and what they were all going through. And has on here, though, a making of featurette on this one. And the next one from Lionsgate is one that I had never seen before, and I know this one had gone out of print. You know, Criterion Collection had released this a number of years back, and it's been out of print for a very long time now. And it's a David Bowie film that he stars in, The Man Who Fell to Earth, and it's I think it was from 1974 or something like, no, it's 1976. Like I said, I had never seen this before. Had always seen, you know, like The Hunger from David Bowie, Labyrinth, pretty much most of his other films, but this is one of the ones I had never gotten to see. And it has in here a bunch of different stuff. It has like a full-size poster for the movie, so that's pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff in here, like a poster, like I said, for the movie, and it has in here a booklet with some facts and stuff like that about the film and some pictures. And then this other thing here that's kind of like a lot of the different kind of poster artwork as well on here. And then it even has a couple lobby cards, you know, of David Bowie, and then some stills from the movie. And it has a number of new features on here as well, like a classic interview from French TV in 1977 with David Bowie, interview with the costume designer, interview with the still photographer on here and a number of other ones as well. But basically, though, it's a movie about David Bowie, who's like an alien from space, and it's not one of those movies like with a huge story. It's more like really interesting things happening and really weird sequences and like really weird stuff of him remembering back to stuff of him on his own planet, and these really out there crazy kind of costumes and scenes out in space. And Rip Torn is in this movie as well. It's a really, really early Rip Torn movie. And I think of him too. I always think of Summer Rental. Like, I always loved him in Summer Rental. That was like one of my favorite things that he was in. And of course, you know, the Men in Black films and as well. It's basically, though, David Bowie's character comes to Earth, and he's got all these patents, you know, that are worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. And he has the guy that he hires to work on him to try and get, you know, the money for these patents and to collect all this money. And he's like really trying to build up all this money for one reason or another. And he's like, what he's trying to do. And you kind of throughout the movie try and figure out exactly what he's doing and what his plans are. And like I said, it's a whole lot of interesting sequences and weird type of things going on and like weird scenes and all kind of stuff that he kind of encounters. Like, it's a very, very interesting, definitely a real art film kind of vibe. But it was really cool to see it. Like I said, one I had never seen before. Now the next ones here are from the from Lionsgate as well, through their Vestron collection, you know, Vestron Video Collectors Series line. And this is one I had not watched this in a long time. I have the old release from years back of this movie. And it's a movie that's, you know, from director Ken Russell. You know, he did Altered States, and he did Crimes of Passion, which came out like a couple months back from Arrow Video. I really like his movies, especially like Altered States and Crimes of Passion. This one is probably my favorite, and this is, you know, the movie called Lair of the White Worm, and love the artwork on this. I really like that they're using these classic artwork on these, and this is a really early Hugh Grant movie. It's like one of his earliest movies. Like, he did a couple, I think some TVs and stuff, but this is one of his first or earliest films, or in the first like couple years of his acting. This is a movie that's basically about, it's a really quirky out there movie, and it deals kind of with like these snake gods, and it's this woman who is like a kind of like a snake, and it's really, really out there because it's this guy who is digging up this architect, like a site outside of a bed and breakfast, and like this girl that he kind of likes is in there, and she's letting him dig up the area around there. And her sister's always coming around. Her sister is dating, you know, Hugh Grant's character. And Hugh Grant's this guy who has lots of money and lives in this kind of castle type huge estate and has a butler and everything. But he digs up and doing this archaeological stuff and finds this really weird skeleton of this huge like snake head. And as soon as he discovers this, weird things start to happen, and then this woman who lives in this castle nearby, and she's like the snake woman, and she's like biting people's legs at night, and it's really hard and really odd to explain, but amazing music, amazing vibes of all this stuff that's going on, and then what she's up to, and there's this great scene too with this kid that's like hitchhiking. There's some really great out there scenes in this movie, really hard to explain. One of them, and really out there like religious imagery of like the snake gods and all this stuff. Some of that stuff that he did was amazing, especially this one scene when she touches like the snake venom and she sees like the stuff, the time of like Jesus and stuff, but through like the snake gods and stuff. It's just such an out there movie. It has on here though a commentary track, like a classic commentary track with Ken Russell. This is from the old, I think the old DVD release, because he passed away a couple of years back. A featurette on here talking about the effects of the movie, interviews, talking with the editor, an interview with one of the actresses in this movie, as well as the trailer on this. But, you know, really looks great, and really love these Vestron video lines that they're releasing, because they're releasing soon too Wishmaster, you know, the whole series of all those movies on Blu-ray, which is one I can't wait for. And this is a great Randy Quaid movie that you know, I had not watched this one, again, in a really long time. I'm a huge fan of Randy Quaid. Like, it's really sad about, like, what's happened with him and how, like, all this kind of stuff, so he had to kind of vanish and everything, because I always loved his movies that, you know, that he acted in. This movie is called Parents. This is another one that has amazing cover on. Like, I'm really glad that they used this artwork on this, the original artwork of this movie. And then the director of this is the guy who's mainly, you know, he acts more than he directs. Like, he directed My Boyfriend's Back from the Dead, and a couple other things. He always makes really, really quirky movies, and he's in a lot of the, you know, like, Moonrise Kingdom, I think he was the narrator in that, and a lot of the Christopher Guest movies, and always like plays really quirky characters and stuff. But he directs some of these films, and they have all a very quirky vibe. And this is one about this kid who's like lives with his parents, and his parents are really odd, and they're always cooking up really strange meat. And really, this is all set like, I think it was supposed to be like the 60s, 50s or 60s, so it's got that real kitschy, weird vibe to this. Their house is real, like that real look. They even have an interview on here about the woman who was, you know, helping design the look of these and finding all the kind of patterns and stuff for the look of the whole house and the furniture and the wallpaper and everything. It was actually a pretty cool interview with her, talking about how she did this and talking about how she did title sequences and stuff. The movie, though, is basically, though, about this kid who is really odd, and he's always, like, having these weird like dreams at night about his parents, and he's like this really odd stuff is going on, and he becomes convinced that his dad is like, you know, eating people and bringing home human meat that he's eating. He doesn't want to eat the meat, and he has like this weird friend. It's just like some really odd stuff going on with this really kitschy type of vibe to the movie. Like I said, real 60s vibe. Randy Quaid is super creepy in this movie. It has on here a commentary track with the director on here, an isolated score on the movie as well, featurettes, you know, with the screenwriter, interview with Mary Beth Hurt, which is cool. They got her to talk about the film. And then an interview with the director-photographer as well, but really cool one. Like I said, both of these Vestron releases have great picture. I really love this Vestron line. I really can't wait to see some of the other future ones, because I know coming out next is going to be The Gate, and then, like I said, Wishmaster, so I can't wait to see all the other ones that they're going to be doing. The next one here from Lionsgate as well is Tyler Perry's Boo, a Madea's Halloween. I have to say, I actually really love the Madea movies. I've seen pretty much every single Madea movie. I think there's a couple, like the really early ones that I missed, but I've pretty much seen all of them in the theaters. I think the Madea is, to me, very funny, like the whole character and everything. This one, too, features, like, FouseyTube is in this, you know, from YouTube. Bella Thorne is in this movie as well. This one, though, is kind of like the trailers made it look like it was more like a horror movie, but it is kind of like a horror movie, sort of, but it's kind of the same, like, if you know, Tyler Perry's movies, it's got, like, a lot of heart to it as well, and, like, kind of a family drama stuff going on as well. This is kind of like Tyler Perry's character's daughter, and he's kind of having some problems with her and problems with her friends that she's hanging out with. And then something ends up happening, and these kids end up pulling a prank on Madea because they're mad that they took the friends out of this party. And they basically try and prank the house that Madea is staying at and all the people in it, all of her friends, and making them think that it's haunted and trying to freak them out and like mess around with the pipes to make noise and do all this weird stuff. So it's basically trying to freak out Madea and make her think that she's in a haunted house. I don't know. I really love this. It's got a number of other people from YouTube as well, you know, starring in this one. It has on here, though, you know, a featurette on here called Why We Love Madea, and a thing with working with the crew on this. But like I said, I love the Madea movies. I think they're really fun movies, and this one, to me, is probably the most fun of all of them, because it's the most, like, over-the-top and kind of crazy of all of them. The next one is actually the first time I've ever seen a Madea play. There's been a lot of Madea plays, but I've never seen them before until this one. They actually have music in them as well, which I never knew. And this is called, you know, Tyler Perry's Madea on the Run, the play. And I'm, you know, just finished watching this now. And this, I don't know, I guess I love, like, I also love the set of this, because, like, it's actually a 2-floor set that they're doing this play on, which is kind of cool. I've never actually seen a play where they have 2 floors. And it's kind of done like a sitcom, because they have, like, a couch and, like, a living room setting. Then they go off, and it's to, like, the garage out there. They have the front door. It's just very much shot like how you would shoot you know, basically putting on a sitcom live in front of an audience instead of, like, you know, but what's more in a play form. So it's kind of interesting. And this is basically Madea coming over to the house as Madea is on the run from the law. Madea is always on the run from the law for something that she's doing. What I love about this, too, is Tyler Perry, when he's doing Madea, like, a couple times, like, he breaks character and he does that man voice, his man voice, and then a couple times, too, people in the audience were coming in and, like, coming in late, and he starts, like, basically just stops the play, and as Madea is, like, yelling at them. I don't know, I find these to be very fun movies, and fun plays as well, like I said, but it's basically, though, this kind of deals with Madea over why this family is having some problems. The one daughter is like engaged with this guy. The other daughter is having problems finding any boyfriends, and the father's trying to set the one's mom's boyfriend is trying to set him up with this guy, and then Medea's kind of making fun of this guy, and then the other guy has a problem with drugs, and it deals with them. The one guy keeping money for the church to put, to redo the roof, and the one guy wants to steal the money. So it deals with all these heavy family drama stuff going on, and deep issues going on, as well as like a comedic aspect. The aunt character, who's also in Boo Madea, is really great. The one who has like these two like canes that she walks with, and she's always talking about smoking doobies and stuff. Like that character to me is probably like, she never misses a beat. I mean, she is so funny and so strong. Like I said, I really like these movies. They're not movies that everybody likes, but to me, I really like them. The next one here from Sony is, this is like the third. I don't think this is in the third of the series, somebody told me when I was talking about this before, unless I might be wrong, but this is, the Tom Hanks movie, with Felicity Jones, who I'm a really big fan of. Felicity Jones, is also in, recently in Rogue One, and she's in The Theory of Everything, and then A Monster Calls. But this movie is called Inferno. Ron Howard directed this one. This is like the third of all these movies, but I think it's like before, I think. And this was the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. This is like the sequel to that film. And this one is actually, out of all of them, my favorite of all of them. I know it's kind of had some mixed reviews, but to me, this is the one I could actually go back and watch a lot more. I thought I was really interested in this whole thing that was going on, and Tom Hanks' character, something has happened to him, and he was like in the hospital. He got out, and like people like hit him over the head and like injected him with something. He's not really sure what had happened to him, and he ends up like with Felicity Jones's character, and it's kind of like him trying to stop the end of the world, because he finds out that Ben Foster's character is kind of planning the end of this world, and he's like planted something that's going to end up like letting out this horrible virus that he created, because Ben Foster's character kills himself at the beginning of the movie, and there's this virus that's going to be let loose, and they have to try and stop this, and then there's like people after them as well. So it's like a real like trying to figure out exactly where is this virus, trying to stop it, and it's also them all navigating through the city. And he always shoots in really cool areas and stuff. Like I said, it had some mixed opinions, but for some reason, to me, it had some really crazy sequences too, like when he's seeing these visions of hell and stuff that I thought were really pretty cool. And like I said, I really feel like this is, of all these ones, was the most my kind of movie. Like I really like this one the best. I like the other ones, but this to me was, like I said, more of a watchable, kind of creepy vibe to this whole thing. Has on here though, deleted and extended scenes, Ron Howard's director's journal, which he's done for some of his other movies as well, like some on-set stuff that he does. A number of other featurettes as well on this one, but a pretty cool movie. The next one here, this is the 15th anniversary edition of Triple X, and the new one is, just opened this weekend. I'm sure I'm going to see this one. This one I had not seen before. Like, I had always, was interested in seeing this because I was always a fan of Asia Argento, Dario Argento's daughter, and she was in Land of the Dead and a number of his films and a bunch of other stuff as well. But somehow I never saw this movie. And I always liked Vin Diesel, and this is like one of his really early movies, like right around the time when he did Pitch Black. I think this might have been like a year after Pitch Black. And like I said, the new one has just come out. Like, it's been 15 years, though. And they did the one, though, with Ice Cube, though, I think like 2 years after this one, or 3 years after. But basically, though, this is about a guy, that Vin Diesel plays, who is like an extreme sports athlete, and he kind of films like kind of videos of him doing crazy stunts and doing crazy things. There's something that this group of people run by Samuel L. Jackson's character, and there's this group of these suspected terrorists, and they think they're going to do something bad, and they're not really telling Vin Diesel what it is, but they try and find like people to kind of do their work for them and infiltrate this group to try and figure out what's happening here and what they're planning. So they kind of do tests and figure out to try and find the people to work on this group, and they basically kidnap Vin Diesel and put him through all these crazy tests, and eventually they pick him to do this and what it is they have to do, and kind of infiltrate this group. And I like this. It's a very fun. It's got a real, like 2000, I think it was 2003 or 2002. So it's got that real vibe, like with the music and everything, like that Drowning Pool song and stuff like that. It just has that real like 2002 feel to this. But it has on here a new interview on here with Vin Diesel, talking about this and kind of talking some about the new film. and as well as a commentary track, deleted scenes, featurettes, and stuff from the past releases on this. And this was cool to watch again, especially in 4K. This is from Sony as well, and this is the first one that's been released on 4K. Hopefully down the line they do like the first movie and stuff like that, the early movies. I actually have loved all these movies. Like I really love zombie movies. Like, and when it comes to like zombie films like that are recent, I've always liked these movies. Like I think the first Resident Evil was like one of the first R-rated movies I saw by myself in the theaters. I think, when I was old enough to see it. I don't even know if I was exactly old enough. I think I might have like had my dad get the ticket and I was like 16 or something like that. But it was like always like I always had a fondness for these movies. I remember too when it came to video games, these are like the movies that I always used to always play those games, the early PlayStation ones, and I remember beating like part 2 and 3. So I've always loved these movies. And this is Resident Evil Afterlife, and this is I think this is the 4th movie. After this they had one other movie and then the brand new movie which comes out in a week. And this is basically about Alice's character, who ends up going to in the beginning of the movie, though, she's got all these clones and she ends up getting injected with something to lose her powers. And then she ends up trying to find like safety in this certain type of safety which is like on this ship, but she ends up seeing these like survivors on this building which is on top of a jail. So it's her in this crashing her plane on this basically crashing down on this jail. And it's kind of her with all these survivors there who are kind of trapped in this jail, and they all have to try and figure out how they're going to get over to where this this boat is, where they say the safety is. And it's kind of them and they're stuck in the prison, and the zombies start digging their way in, and it's just a huge mayhem of all these problems going on with them fighting these zombies. The movie really picks up though right when she gets to the prison. That's when the movie really, to me, gets cool, because the stuff in the beginning of her with the clones and stuff was okay, but the prison stuff was really cool stuff. And this, like I said, this is the brand new 4K edition of this one, and actually really, really looks good, because these movies, like Paul W.S. Anderson's movies like always have like a real cool like dark look, and he's real atmospheric with his like lighting and everything. And with HDR, with 4K, the high dynamic range is the biggest thing. So like those levels, the contrast levels and everything look really good in this. Like I said, I really hope they release the other movies as well on 4K. I know the newest one when that comes out will be though. The next one here from Disney is Disney's Pinocchio, and this is the brand new edition of this, because it's another one that was out of print for a while. This is from the signature series line. This has a couple new features on here too. It's talking about called the Pinocchio Project, when they have these 2 singers kind of singing the song from Pinocchio, When You Wish Upon a Star, doing like a new version of that now. And then they have a thing on here Walt talking about Pleasure Island. It's kind of like the artwork and things like that, and that's pretty cool. They find these like archival interviews and things like that with Walt Disney. And then there's a thing on here too of interviews with him talking about Pinocchio, and then like throughout the years it's like different interviews pieced together about him kind of talking about the film itself. But if you guys don't know the film though, it's about Geppetto, who creates this puppet, which Pinocchio out of wood. And he comes to life because of this, this wish that brings Pinocchio to life. And it's pretty much, though, Pinocchio and then Geppetto's character, who's this little cricket, and their friends and stuff. And Pinocchio ends up getting into all this mischief and ends up getting to, like, Pleasure Island, which is, like, the terrible place with those bad wolves and stuff. Where he's, like, smoking cigars and everything, and bad things happen. It's kind of like this whole journey of Pinocchio's life and everything. That's what it is, pretty much. When you actually break it down, that's really what it is. And I have to be honest, when it comes to Disney movies, this has always been, for some reason, my all-time favorite Disney movie. Like, I've always loved this one. This is the one ever since I was a little child I liked. It's always been this movie and then The Little Mermaid. Those are 2 of my personal favorite movies of all time. And like, I know a lot of people say like The Lion King, but to me it's always this and then Little Mermaid are always like my favorite ones. And it has on here too the classic features from the past releases as well. The next one here from Disney as well. This is from their DreamWorks, and it's the Light Between the Ocean. This has Lisa Vikander, from Ex Machina, and the Danish Girl, and then Michael Fassbender. And this was a really pretty cool, but very sad movie. Like, it's very, very sad, the whole vibe to this movie. And it's basically about Michael Fassbender, who ends up, you know, he's not a very happy person. He ends up getting this, there's one guy who kind of had something happen to him and he can't take what's going on, and he ended up leaving this lighthouse that he was at in the middle of nowhere, and he was like the keeper of it, and he's taking some time off, and they end up bringing in Michael Fassbender to go there for some months to watch this lighthouse and keep the light going and everything. But before he goes, he ends up meeting Alicia Vikander's character at this little party that he's at, like with the people in the town and the family that let him in. And he starts to notice her and likes her, and it's kind of about when he comes back after 6 months, he finds out that he's going to have to stay there because the guy, the lighthouse, ended up killing himself. This is no spoilers or anything. It's the whole movie though is basically how those two meet, and he ends up finding out that he's going to have a 3-year contract at this island, and then they end up kind of both together and go to this island together and watch the lighthouse. But they're trying to have a child, and she's having all this terrible luck and keeps losing the baby. It's really sad. But then one day, randomly, this baby washes up, you know, in this carriage, you know, in the ocean. And they end up taking it in and raising them. Well, what ends up happening, though, is something happens, and, you know, it's not good, because they have to decide what they're going to do, and if they're going to tell this person. That's pretty much all I can really say about the whole thing. It's pretty much them. It's not really their child, but they raise it for all these years, but then something ends up happening, and they have to really decide what they're going to do about it. But, you know, it has on here, though, some featurettes on this movie as well, and a commentary track, but like I said, a very, very sad, but very, very well acted and everything film. The next one here, this is the 4K edition as well. This is from Paramount, and this is the Tom Cruise movie, Jack Reacher, Never Go Back. This is the sequel to Jack Reacher. I actually never saw the first Jack Reacher movie. I don't think it matters, though, because like I pretty much picked up on what was going on here, but this, it's basically, though, about Jack Reacher's character, who's now retired from what he was doing. He was working kind of like, working kind of like with this group of, I don't know what you say, it was like kind of like the government and the army, like doing these kind of tasks and stuff like that. And he's kind of quit doing that, but he's kind of calling the new woman who's working there and talking to her and seeing if she needs any help and stuff, because he's kind of gone, but he doesn't, sort of misses that he's gone. But he ends up talking to this woman, and he finds out that something has happened to this woman, and Jack Reacher's character ends up becoming like, looking at as the person that might have been responsible for this death, and then like him and the woman end up having to try and like clear their names, and it's kind of him like on this whole thing about all the government kind of coming after him, and then the people, because there's something that was being covered up, and then they're coming after him, and it's kind of him trying to clear his name while it's all this stuff going on. So it's like a huge nightmare thing happening with him dealing with all this stuff that's happening. But like I said, this is the brand new, you know, this is the 4K edition of this, and I thought it looks very good. Like, this is one of those movies that's going to look the top notch, you know, great detail, great, you know, picture and everything, because it's like the newest everything. And I thought it definitely looks really good, and has on here, though, some featurettes on here about, you know, Jack Reacher coming back, and a number of other featurettes on this movie as well, like on the location and things like that. The next one here from Warner Brothers, this is from the Warner Archive collection, and this is a movie that I had never seen, and it's definitely, I feel like it inspired like a lot of different movies. It's the Audrey Hepburn movie with Alan Arkin called Wait Until Dark. And it's basically Audrey Hepburn is a woman who's blind, and she's in this house. At the beginning of the movie, this woman who's like trying to steal heroin. She was like trying to smuggle heroin through the airport, and when she's like coming through the security, she gets kind of scared because she sees this really weird guy. So she ends up saying to this, because she smuggled it in this doll, she says to Audrey Hepburn's husband in this movie, who was like at the airport, will you hold this? And gives the doll to him. And of course, though, the people have found out about this, and now Audrey Hepburn is at this house, and like the criminals that are trying to find this doll and get the doll back that has the drugs in it are coming up with this elaborate scheme of acting like they're the police officers, and since she's blind, they think they can kind of trick her and acting like they're the police, acting like they're like this old man that stumbles into the house because he was looking for somebody, acting like the one guy pretends like he knows the husband from the war. So it's them all with this elaborate scheme to try and trick this woman to try and find this doll wherever this doll is hidden in the house. Really, really cool movie. You know, like I said, I don't know how I had never seen this movie. And I know this was like, I think, one of the few Audrey Hepburn, you know, horror movies. I think it may have been one of the only ones, because she was more for like romantic movies and kind of things like that. But this was Also one of the really, really early Alan Arkin movies, and he was really cool in this, but definitely a really cool one. The next one here from MVD is a movie called Bleed, and this was pretty much a pretty interesting thing about this one woman who was pregnant, and she's kind of moved to a new kind of small town, and her friends are all coming over to the house to kind of you know, welcome her, and they're kind of like partying and stuff like that. And the friends are all, two of them are really into like paranormal things. And but when they're the second they get to this house though, they're seeing weird things. And then like the ones in the bathtub, and she sees this really weird guy, like a criminal type guy, peeking in the bed, and then he vanishes, but you know, into the tub. So they also come to find out though that there was this old abandoned prison that burnt down, and there's like part of it underground that's still there. And they go to the site where this happens. The second they go there though, things start to happen. There's really weird stuff going on there. Like a very creepy thing about them kind of investigating this, and they start seeing really weird things at the, you know, the place. Because I kind of thought from the cover it was almost going to be like a It's Alive kind of movie, but it's not really that kind of thing. It's more like this weird town that's up to no good and has a really weird past, and then like a really weird things that had happened in this jail where all these people had died and stuff. The next one here, though, from Image Entertainment, you know, RLJ Image Entertainment. Now, the cover kind of makes this look like it's like an old Western kind of movie or something like that. It's not like that. This is like a real, like, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer kind of movie. Like, this is one of my top recommendations of this update. Like, this movie, like, I always love when I get surprised by a movie. Like, that doesn't happen too often. Like, when I really don't, like, know what to expect going into it. And then I watch it and I'm like, wow, that was, like, a really good, you know, like one of those ones you, like I said, you want to put on the shelf, you know, like, really happy to, like, to have, and, like, you know, that you really like. And this movie is called Dead West. And this is one of those ones that really surprised me. What's interesting about this too, there's an hour-long feature on here, and you know, talking about how they made this movie. And they only made it in 11 days, and what's, you know, which is normal for a lot of indie movies, but they actually shot this movie in tons of locations, like drive-ins, and then like restaurants, and all these different houses, and all tons of different locations. This is basically though about this, you know, this serial killer guy who's going around and killing all these different people. Basically, he's trying to find like the perfect woman, but every time he meets somebody, there's all these like problems. Like the one woman like does something that he doesn't like, or then he goes into like one place and meets some guy that does something that pissed him off, and then he goes and kills him. And it's kind of him traveling around in this this car, going from place to place to place, killing people. Well, what's different though about this is, now like I said, they even talk about this in the documentary, is it's a serial killer movie, but the violence is all off screen. So it's not like a super gory kind of movie. It's all kind of implied, and it's very different because, you know, when you look at like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, a lot of like those kind of movies, it's all about the gore and all about all that, but this is more about the aspect of just what's happening as opposed to showing everything, which actually makes it kind of different. Like the only real big gore stuff is when they go to the drive-in in this movie and watch Maniac, and then there's a scene like the head blowing off scene with Tom Savini. But I love this movie, and it also deals with mainly the big aspect is this, the one girl that he kills in the beginning of the movie, the girl's brother is like got a look at this, you know, the person that killed his sister, and he's kind of traveling around trying to find him. There's some great scenes. Even the director has like a cameo in this movie as like a guy yelling at this kid, and then he gets killed. It's like this crazy, like, and I love this one woman too who's like selling this like weird tea on the side. It was just like a really random weird scene of this woman selling the tea. But like I said, I love this movie. The director did a really good job in this movie. He also did a movie called, I reviewed a long time ago, called To All Ghost of Goodnight Lane or something like that. It might have been called that. I can't remember. It was all set in like a movie theater. But like I said, really surprised me. Really cool movie. The next one here, I'll put the link for you guys can get this one, and it's a region-free release, so anyone can play this one. But it's from the UK, and it's, you know, called You're So Cool, Brewster: The Story of Fright Night, and it's basically the making of Fright Night. And it's a 3-hour and like 30-minute long documentary that talks about basically all about the making of. They got together pretty much all the cast members, and it's them from the first movie and as well as the second movie, and then talking a little bit about the remake. But it's like, I think the first movie is like 1 hour and 50 minutes, then it's like an hour for the second film, and like 20-some minutes or something like that for the remake. And it also talks about like all the problems with the remake as well. But it's basically, though, the actors together talking about their experience of making this movie, how they got the part, you know, talking with Tom Holland about how he ended up coming up with the story and how he had all kinds of problems getting the movie made and all that kind of thing. It's a very, very well done documentary, really, really well filmed, really well put together and edited. And if you guys like, you know, documentaries that are kind of like the Return of the Living Dead documentary that was out a couple years back. That's kind of ones that are really, really into detail about all the aspects. I would really recommend this one. And I also like, too, they had an actor playing the Peter Vincent character. Kind of, they would cut back and forth to it a couple times. I don't know. This was a really, really, really well done documentary, for especially fans of, you know, Fright Night. Then the next one here, and I'll put a link as well for where you guys can get this. But this is one of those movies that I had never had so many people tell me about a movie so many times in my life. Like on Instagram and everywhere, I had so many people telling me, have you seen this movie? What'd you think of this movie? So I really, really wanted to see this one. This movie is called The Barn, and the artwork on this is amazing. Like, this is such cool artwork. And I don't know if the person who did this, you know, poster artwork, I feel like they might have done some other ones. I don't know. I have to figure out exactly what the other stuff he's done, but it's really cool artwork. And this is basically about a group of these friends. In the beginning of the movie, though, they have this, like, kind of haunted house, and they scare Linnea Quigley's character, who's, like, a real kind of Christian-like woman, and she's real offended by this, and she, because of them scaring her, they force the parents to, you know, make them go out and collect money, and collect canned goods to bring to the church, or food for the church, but they go, well, she didn't say exactly what it had to be, so we go around trick-or-treating and bring her a bunch of candy, but they go around trick-or-treating, but of course they end up with these their other friends and these girls. They end up going and stopping off in this barn, and they tell this story about this haunted barn, about these, like, creatures that were in there, like a pumpkin man and like a pickaxe kind of guy, like the one who let in the mines, and a scarecrow creature. And they basically, though, they all live in this haunted barn, and they all come back to life, and they start, like, killing them all off and going after them, and, like, you know, the kids are getting killed off and going around the town killing people. It's a really, really cool movie, and it's a real total throwback to, like, real 80s shot on video kind of like a Monster Squad, Night of the Creeps kind of feel movie with, like, you know, this has classic synth as well. And, you know, Ari Lehman, you know, that's known as the first Jason. He has a cameo on this one, as like I said, as well as Linnea Quigley, and has on here a commentary track on here, commercials, deleted scenes, and it even has two, and I wasn't able to play it because I don't have a CD-ROM drive anymore. You know, the Macs and stuff don't have them anymore, but it has on here a game, like an 8-bit game. You know, I have, like, an old computer, so I have to try and see if it will work on that, but, like, an actual game for this movie. But it's pretty cool, though. Like I said, really, really cool throwback movie, and I'll put the link below for you guys if you're interested in picking that one up. And the last ones here are from Olive Films, and it's a John Ritter show, which I had never heard of in my entire life, and it's called Hooperman. And I think it's Hooperman. Sometimes I was thinking Hopperman, but I think it's Hooperman. And it's basically, though, a cop show. And I was really liking this one. I watched through a number of the episodes, and it's basically John Ritter is this cop, and he lives in this kind of building that's kind of falling apart. In the beginning of the movie, though, his landlord who owns the building ends up getting killed, but she had a will, and she left the building to John Ritter's character. So John Ritter is this cop now. She also left this dog, this little dog. The dog kind of reminded me of, like, Grimshot, you know, from the Ernest movies. There's that kind of dog. But it's basically him trying to navigate cop life, you know, dealing with being a cop, and all the kind of, each episode he has kind of problems, and one episode he has to try and figure out how he's going to keep the dog, because the dog is, like, always biting everybody, and, like, it also it was, like, kind of ahead of its time, too, dealing with, like, gay cop characters and all the kind of stuff. I felt like it was a little bit different for, like, the time period, I think. And the writer of this, I mean, the creator of this, like, wrote a lot of things like Columbo, and still to this day, I think I saw he writes a lot of, like, the cop shows now. And he also wrote some of Cop Rock, you know, and that was his, you know, had, like, some really crazy music scenes and stuff. But I like this. I'm a huge fan of John Ritter. You know, I always loved everything John Ritter did. One thing when it comes to John Ritter, I hope someday comes to DVD, is that movie he was in called The Colony. Like, I feel like that's, like, a totally lost, amazing movie that he was in. But really cool show. Like I said, it's one that I feel like is just a fun show. You can really watch through this one, and if you guys are a fan of John Ritter and probably want to see something of his that you probably have never seen, definitely check this one out, because I don't think this really had any syndication or anything. Like I said, I don't know when the last time this ever aired on TV was. Anyway, though, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.